regardless, we're here to talk movies because we all have that time to spend. Let's talk top five sci-fi movies. You're a big sci-fi guy, so let's give me your top five.
Well, I do have to preface these because they're very different um, in a way, and I chose maybe not in the specific order, but I chose the five sci-fi movies that when I watched them for the first time, they really spoke to me,
Mm,
and that would be Empire Strikes Back, RoboCop, um,
mm.
The Day the Earth Stood Still, the original, which still holds up in my opinion, Wrath of Khan, and Jurassic Park.
Oh, those are solid choices, man. Man, Jurassic Park was great. I remember I that scene in the kitchen where the raptors come in. I had nightmares about that for years, but it was like such a good scene because it actually like it was somewhat like, man, if this really did happen, that was a good way to go about it as a kid, like to
Yeah,
survive.
man. Oh, it
Oh,
was fantastically played by those kids too. They were
hmm
fantastic in the movie, and that was actually the movie I was big into movies beforehand, but like that was the movie where the scene where the Brachiosaurus they first see first dinosaur for the first time was that Brachiosaurus, and just that larger than life as a kid watching it on the screen, I looked at it and I was like, this is what I want to do, and my
yeah.
friends were like, make dinosaurs. I'm like, no, make movies, and I was like, because I want to make people feel like I just felt. So
Yeah. Man, it really is magical, especially when you think about like how it was all green screen and just the power of acting, how they really made you believe they were looking at dinosaurs, or at least, when you're a kid and you're excited watching it. It's yeah, that's a great one. RoboCop's solid. That's definitely one of those movies that you think about where the world is heading. You're
yeah,
like, this wasn't too far off. Uh, Especially with the way the world was going before this whole pandemic thing hit.
yeah.
Um,
A lot of people that would probably be number one on my sci-fi list.
wow.
Because it's so out there. But when I first saw it, I was like, this is like a great mix of science fiction and action, and just like it's like every kid's fantasy. I'm like, you have a robotic cop.
Yeah,
I saw it as a young kid and with my brothers, and it was just like blew me away.
yeah. I want to. We talked about we caught up on one of your live shows. You were talking about movies, and it's not on your list, but I know it's a big movie for you. Back to the Future, and just the trilogy of its
All
own. I
right.
mean that trilogy, the first movie, and the way that they tie in each movie after that, like the story is solid. It intertwines. I don't think that there's one of those three that is bad. I mean, what are your thoughts? I mean, it's amazing.
Well, yes, we're touching down on that. Actually, if I turn the camera just a bit, that's my Back to the Future wall. So I had to have like all my memorabilia framed and everything, and the reason being, Back to the Future is my favorite movie of all time. Hands down, there is no other. It would be funny in film classes, and then especially in screenwriting classes, to tell the teacher that because they'd be like, "Really?" What do you? And I'm like, but why isn't it on my sci-fi list? Because for me, it's that nostalgic. Like anytime I watch this movie, it brings me back to the very
Mm,
first time. Those last 5 minutes of trying to get the car to the cable still thrills me.
hell yeah.
They they built that tension up perfectly, and I truly love it. It's a fun movie from beginning to end. And great question with the trilogy. I don't think any of them are bad because they were so planned perfectly.
Mm,
If you go back and there's Easter eggs they're still finding to this day that nobody has seen before,
yeah.
and that's just proper planning. And I think trilogies or anything for that matter, like limited series stuff like that, you're always going to have a problem with the last one or the last episode or whatever it is. Mostly because we never want something to end.
Mm,
So I think automatically we go into the ending with a this is going to be bad because you just don't want it to go away.
yeah.
But that was tied up beautifully. The whole
Hmm.
thing from beginning to end, and uh, to me, I think as much as I love the Holy Trilogy of Star Wars and so much else, this was so well planned. To me, this is probably the best trilogy out there because of it. It's not a perfect movie, I know that. There's plenty of plot holes in it and such, but because they all complement each other so well, and they were planned out in a right way, left open. The first one was left open just well enough so that way you could have the second one and third one. That's why it's the perfect trilogy for me.
Yeah, the documentary that came out, what was it, a few years ago, where they broke down like how each one was made and the challenges they had. I had no idea until I watched that Michael J. Fox was green screened in to the entire first movie. And that, when you go back and you watch it with that in mind, like, it's such a, for lack of a better word, a mind fuck. You're like, whoa, wait a minute, wait. I didn't know that. And then it adds to the whole, like, well, he's not set in the timeline yet. Like, there's so much beauty to that. And that was, I don't think, planned at all.
No, and it's funny because Thomas Wilson, who played Biff in the movie, says that, and I've gone back and rewatched it now, and this is fairly recently he said this. Eric Stoltz, who originally played Marty McFly, is still in one shot.
Really?
Yeah, it's the shot where he punches Biff. They never took the shot of him punching Biff, so it's still Eric Stoltz's arm and shoulder.
Oh my god! I gotta go back and watch that. That's insane.
And he came out with that, and I'm like, oh my! How did I never know it? Because it's a black jacket. It's not Marty's normal jacket.
Oh.
So, but they couldn't get the fight scene. They already had Biff's shots done. They just had to film them with Marty, and they were like, all right, we didn't get the punch. Let's just use the original.
Damn, that mind blown. That's crazy.
That's why I love those movies. There's still things today that pop up.
Oh, man. That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, Back to the Future, it has such a big thing in my life too, because so you talked about how you had kind of started another podcast and then found yourself to where you are today. I did the same thing. The Today in Space started as a segment I was doing on a show with one of my friends from home, Mike Small, and we stopped doing it because we both didn't have the same time to put into it, and so I started this, and he's still amazing friend of mine, but we are Marty and Doc. Like, I am his Doc, he's my Marty, and that's just, it's always going to be that way. So I always love that dynamic.